Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
Good morning, chillins of mine.
Good morning.
Whoa. How are y'all?
I'm all right this morning.
Doing pretty good.
Good. So, outside of the chutes and ladders game that tariffs are creating lately, the U.S. economy is booming. We're talking record-breaking productivity, innovation off the charts, and technically, we're the richest country in the world. But despite all of that, Americans are not thriving. We're lonelier, angrier, more disconnected than ever, trusting each other, in our institutions, in reality itself, all on shaky ground. Are we headed in a positive direction? A happier one? So in this episode, we're digging into that weird disconnect. How can everything look so good on paper, but feel so bleak in real life? We'll talk about eating alone, social trust, youth mental health, and whether America's obsession with growth is leaving happiness behind. We'll also swing by a weird thought for a true crime twist we didn't see coming, and stick around for a little good news involving Callie's favorite F-word chanting soccer star and the most anticipated return of wholesome optimism to TV. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's
Let's
get
dive
into
in.
it. So we're talking really about wealth and unhappiness, and it kind of came from an article that I read. I mean, I want to get y'all's opinion, especially as millennials, of where you think we are. I mean, we are the wealthiest nation, and yet there's a great deal of discord and unhappiness.
Yeah. No, so, and this is kind of one of the things that is mentioned in those articles is that, just like you said, on paper, yeah, everything looks like it's going great. And economically speaking, yeah, our economy is growing. But here is where I think that disconnect starts is the massive differential in wealth equality.
I agree.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
So you're taking a look through the graphs and charts that are a part of these articles. So it was a group of, I think it was like 13 economists and psychologists and 13 experts.
Who came from a great background. I mean, they'd worked for presidents. They are think tank people. I mean, smart, intelligent people.
Yeah. Fairly diverse.
Yeah.
You know what? Going back, maybe it was more than 13. Anyways, you have all these DC think tank eggheads that are taking a look at these numbers, and they're all averages. And one thing when you do a lot of charting to understand about averages is that outliers can have a massive impact on what that chart looks like. Yeah, economically speaking, the US is leading the world and charging ahead and growing steadily. But the other thing that you have to understand is that 80 to 90% of that wealth that's being generated from that growth is in the hands of a very small group of people, relatively speaking. And so it's really difficult to say, yeah, our nation's economy is doing really well. Why is everybody so unhappy? Well, it's because that economy that's doing so well is only benefiting
A small subsect of our population.
5%, 5 to 10% of the population. And everyone else, their wealth is growing off of our productivity. So we're building and generating all of this productivity that is being measured, but not benefiting from it in the ratio of input to benefit received on a per capita basis. I would imagine if you wanted to try and measure that, it's probably kind of why all of these charts are where they're at.
But I think even with that, Cole, if you look across countries, multiple countries like this group was doing, America still is wealthy. I mean, comparatively, more people in America are wealthy than people in other countries in large regard. So I hear what you're saying. you're saying that the average American isn't that wealthy.
Yeah.
I'm going to argue with you about that because I don't know that that's really true. I mean, I get a lot of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, but they're also not living off of, $100 a month. They're living off of several $1,000s a month for the most part.
I mean, I think it's all kind of a sliding scale, right? We can sit here and talk about whether or not you're wealthy or all of these different kind of facets of class and society. And there's always going to be a spectrum of that. The poorest person in America may still have it much better than the richest person in another country, especially when you start taking into consideration third world countries and things like that. And so I think that was what the original American dream was, right? You get to come here, you could build your life, you get to have all of these freedoms and choice and all of that. And I think that there's still some validity to that, but I think that it has been almost confused for success, if that makes sense.
What do you mean?
I mean,
Wealth is not success.
wealth and success may go hand in hand, but those are not the only opportunities to be happy. And I think that the American dream relies more or leans towards more happiness, but we like to consider that happiness wealthy. And they don't always go hand in hand.
That makes sense.
So there's that whole saying about you're the rule, not the exception. And I think that applies here. So realistically applies here. We like to think that we're the exception to the rule, but we're not. Most of us are the rule, not the exception. And Cole's sitting here talking about those exceptions. And I'm sure that there are some great benefits to being the exception to the rule. But there are more people living in this country paycheck to paycheck, which some of that is of their own doing, of our own doing, of a lack of financial literacy and opportunity in various different ways and capacities. But it doesn't have to be that way. And so then when you kind of start taking into account the wealth disparity and how things are really, truly spread out amongst this country and the population of this country, the rule is a much nastier viewpoint than the exception.
Yeah, and this article makes some really good points, I think, when it is talking about kind of almost like day-to-day basis points that it is using to generate these charts, where it talks about, again, we are one of the, if not the wealthiest nation in the world, and our health is terrible. I mean, how do we have such a productive economy and we have people who are foregoing healthcare because they cannot afford
Can't
it?
afford it.
And that's not the exception. That is
Yes, that's common.
Oftentimes the rule.
oftentimes the rule. And so, I mean,
But I think that's part of the whole point in them saying we have this wealth, but we're not using it well, and it isn't dissipated to everybody. And then you add some other factors in there. I thought one of the most interesting things that they talked about was Americans are eating alone more, not just a meal here and there, but commonly eating alone. I mean, the truth is, I eat alone a lot. I mean, and I have people around me all the time, but I eat at my desk a lot while I'm at work. Or you walk into even a restaurant and people are on their phone. So it's not like they're together. And that wasn't the factor here. This was literally, we are eating alone more often than we used to, even just a few years ago.
We've quoted it previously on this podcast in a couple of other kind of storylines, if you will, but necessity is the mother of innovation. And I think that Cole talked the other day about all of the distractions that is the internet and social media and all of these things. I mean, the three of us can't record a single podcast episode without our notifications going off, without getting notified of something else. Somebody's talking to you. This is going on in the world. Here's a headline really quick. Don't forget about this thing. We have so much going on. Our focus and it's more than focus though. What am I looking for?
Attention.
Attention, thank you. Our attention is so divided amongst so many different things and priorities, if you will, that we don't get to focus on one thing with intent for any period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's sad.
I don't disagree with you on that. I mean, I think that what it does is we're unable to focus on one thing. We focus on 15 things. So I think it takes our expertise away. We are not as good because we're so divided in our attention so often, so much of the time.
Yeah, our entire existence, we have turned into consumption machines, be that food, be that content, be that whatever it is, everything that we are doing, we are consuming all of the time.
But it is at the sacrifice of other things, like community involvement, or even, part of this study was that teenagers don't hang out.
I don't have
they're on
time
their
to
phone.
be socially engaged. I have things to buy on Amazon and podcasts to watch.
Yes. And if you just think back about that, especially if you're in that younger age group, then you're not getting multiple exposures to other things. You're not getting multiple perspectives, even on the same subject. You've only got yours or what is on your algorithm.
I was just going to say.
Which is going to match so much of what you're doing anyway. So we're losing that type of involvement too. And we're so focused on our phones or on TikTok that we're not communicating with other people. And so that's a big deal.
I agree, but I think that is more a symptom than the issue itself, personally.
Oh.
So
what's the issue itself?
Access to those experiences. I mean, if you can't afford to go see all of these places, look, how much of the world at this point is undiscovered? Basically none of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no more adventure in life. And if there is adventure, particularly for young Americans, access to it is limited to how much you can afford to pay for it. And so if you can either spend an entire paycheck for a small 1 or 2 day adventure, or you can get the same dopamine hit from doom scrolling on your phone,
media.
Which one are you going to use? Now, if you had access to something that was more real, that's different. And
I don't know that I'm going to go there with you, because I think if you look back to families in the 40s and the 50s, it's not that they were traveling internationally or doing crazy adventures. That wasn't the common man's daily life. They were, farmers living on a farm, but they had community that they were involved in. Even if you want to go back and say that was church, and that they were more active in church and they had people around them, like-minded people even, than what we do today. I don't know that it's an adventure issue.
But I think that has so much to do with the distractions that are in place. I don't want to go and experience something locally, this dinner, this place, because I am too busy scrolling through social media to see what everybody else is doing. I have all of this information at my fingertips. I want to dive into this region of it. I'm going to invest my time here instead of getting out. And so you're talking about people in the 40s and 50s, 70s and 80s, they're going out because they had nothing else to do. If you sat at home, Mom, you have mentioned this on a couple of occasions. How many TV channels did y'all have growing up?
3.
I'm not trying to age you here, but we have thousands.
And do you know how many of those thousands of TV channels I watch on a regular basis?
3.
0.
Yeah, and that's great. But I think that's my point. Like Cole was saying, there's so much content for us to consume. I want to take in this TV show and this movie and this podcast and this, You and I have talked about it. We suck at being bored because there's so much to do. You and I, we have talked about it on this podcast specifically. We do at least a 90-second plank every day. When is the last time that you did 90 seconds worth of doing something else without sitting there and scrolling Instagram or reading a book in the process? We can't do it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because we are just so busy absorbing all of this shit around us. We have taken and filled our lives with all of this other stuff that we've deemed important. And some of it is, don't get me wrong, and some of it isn't. And we have filled all of our time with stuff that in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter.
I want to back up for a minute because I think I need to re-articulate the point that I was trying to make, because I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, it's not all about adventure, but in previous generations, without those additional distractions, it was very easy to set a goal and say, I want to take my wife to Paris. And you could generate enough income to plan that and make that a reality.
A priority.
A priority to set this aside. Well, in our current existence, that's not an option for most people. And they know that that's not an option. And so why would they take and spend any time dedicated to trying to find an experience that is worth it when they can do the absolute bare minimum and get by on scrolling?
I'm not sure I agree with you. I
You can
don't
spend
think that Americans, especially middle class Americans, traveled internationally near as much as what your generation travels now. I can tell you, my parents and my grandparents never had
We're still missing the
passports.
point. I'm just using international travel as an example. What I'm trying to get at is that the access to experiences that are meaningful is so limited right now and so expensive that the average person doesn't have the ability to set aside their time and assets to dedicate to those experiences. So instead, they just go to the internet.
Right.
And they
You can
get
spend
a
$24.99 a month
experience.
to have Netflix and watch all of this stuff and have access to all of this content instead of squirreling away your $25 a month to save it up to go on this road trip to this place that you've never been.
To go out to dinner and have a
Sure.
nice dinner.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is access to those experiences that make life interesting at this point has become so restricted to your income that most people don't view it as worth it to strive for those experiences, because they can get a pseudo experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 and a quarter days a year.
Is it that? Or is it that it kind of like what Callie said, we're spending our $25 a month instead of saving it up for a goal that we might have, or that we're just choosing or our site's so big, I can't just go out for a nice dinner. I have to go out for an experience. It's kind of like getting engaged today. People used to get engaged between two people. Hey, I want you to marry me. I said yes. But now then, it has to be a production. I feel so bad for men today of what they have to do to create this
Memorable moment.
experience. Yes. To ask somebody to marry them. I mean, what's that thing that our eyes are bigger than our stomach is kind of thing? And I think that's kind of what they found here, is that we're so focused on that economic growth that we're foregoing all of the other things. We're foregoing happiness and community and relationships so that we can.
I think that's the point that I'm trying to make here, is that we are so focused on that economic growth and so few people are benefiting from it.
I agree with you. Look at us. We found an agreement. I do. I agree with you on that. And I do think that social media is part of the problem. I mean, this is going to be a horrible thing to ask, but is democracy or capitalism is probably a better way to say that. Is capitalism the problem?
I think our
Rampant
current
capitalism?
version of capitalism is feeding and exacerbating that issue,
That makes
because
total sense to me.
is not right now being utilized to improve the lives of everyone and make life better for everyone. It is just being used to drive economic growth, which again is benefiting an exceptionally small percentage of the population.
Yeah. One of the quotes out of this article says, "We are the richest country in the world, but we chronically fail to offer broad-based economic prosperity and security." Heidi Sherholtz is the president of the Economic Policy Institute, a think tank. And I think that's accurate.
You know, this is going to be really, really weird, y'all hearing this from me, but
I love these moments.
I love these.
my biggest issue with this article is that the New York Times did not go hard enough on this. They tiptoed around the eggshells of this article and did not come out and say what I think the point is.
Which is?
That the same thing I've been saying all over and over, is that the economic output is not being is not benefiting enough people. And
That makes
for not what I would have expected from New York Times in this particular instance, to tiptoe around this issue the way that I feel like they did in this article.
interesting.
I thought so too.
The authors Ashley Wu and David Leinhardt might not agree with you on that, but
And they don't have to.
That's okay.
They're welcome to that.
But I mean, here are some of the things that they did bring up. We have the lowest life expectancy of any rich country. We have the highest murder rate. This one still shocks me. The world's highest rate of fatal drug overdoses, of the lowest rates of trust in our federal government, the highest rate of youth depression, and the highest rate of single families.
Mo money, mo problems.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but that's the whole thing, is it's not mo money, mo problems. Because there's not more money. Inflation is spiked.
Yeah.
Our buying power is down. We have less money now than we ever have in the past. The number may be bigger, but the value of that number is smaller.
so what do you do? Because I will say, the article did not offer any.
Here's how to become happier in all of this shithole.
No, it wasn't there at all. It was just, a group of people, very smart people coming together, agreeing on what the focuses were going to be.
The 37 metrics.
Yes, the metrics of what the questions were going to be, and doing a comparison from the 90s to currently, and finding that we are, as a country, wealthier, and as a country, unhappier.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast episode from Young House Love has a podcast years ago, maybe not quite that long. I know.
John and Sherry, I miss your daily.
We were just talking about that earlier this week. Those interactions were good. But they did, on an episode of their podcast, I'll have to go back and find it. They had an interview. I feel like she made planners. I'll have to go back and find the episode and I'll link it in the show notes. But it was talking about how her family, her little family with her children and her husband, they started looking at how they were cramming their schedules so full of events and activities and all of these things that their kids, their young children, were stressed out all of the time. And so they grew up in those young, impressionable years under exorbitant amounts of stress because of soccer and karate and all of these different things. And so what they found is that they were just going to start clearing their schedules of things unless they absolutely wanted to do it. I am wild about soccer. I have to play soccer. Okay, you can play soccer, but that means that you're not going to do ballet and you're not going to do choir and all of these other things as well.
Yeah.
Pick one and do that really, really well. And it made all of their lives happier, simpler, and they got to then spend time with each other rather than running around to do all of these other things all of the time.
The wise words of Ron Swanson: never half-ass two things.
Yes.
Whole ass one thing.
Yes. Amen, Ron.
But I mean, think about that. I mean, I don't see families spending valuable time together because they are. They're running to this kid still and then that kid still. And
FOMO.
Mhm.
it is.
Everything is FOMO.
Everything. Well, we have to teach them this and they need to experience that and they have to do this. And
Oh,
I
you
don't-
didn't see that movie? You have to see this movie.
Right. I have been just as guilty of coming to you guys saying, you have to watch this, you have to watch this. But we need to be more intentional with what we do, like deserving of our time. What's deserving of our time?
More judicious in our
Yeah.
allocation of time and attention, for sure.
I mean, I certainly get that. And maybe this is partly my age, except that I've heard people your age say the same thing. I mean, it feels like the days are just flying by and I don't have anything specific to hold out about even this week. You know, what was special about this week?
To show
And-
for
Because
it.
all we do is work.
I think there's a couple of things, but I mean, yes, we're working and we're probably working more hours than, our predecessors did. But at the same time, I also think we are unfocused because our focus is so divided in so many different ways that I think we are unfocused. But I also, Cal, think we aren't very intentional. We aren't really looking at the things that we do have to be grateful for and holding that out and being deliberate about some of the things that we do want. If I want to take that international trip, then I have to make plans to do that. I can't just assume that it's going to happen.
Manifest it.
Yeah, I got to sit down and figure out how that's going to work and who's going to go with me and where do I want to go and how's the best way to go. So I think it's there. And I know that I'm saying this from a perspective of not necessarily living paycheck to paycheck, but I have a lot of things that I need to be grateful for and a lot of things that I can do. And I don't know, maybe we need to start, Cole, with the things that are, free to do. There are movies down on the square. Let's go spend some time, make a picnic and go down and watch the free movie. And at least we've focused on each other for a little while. I don't know the answer to this, but here's my fear. Your generation is less happy than my generation significantly. And I am worried that my grandchildren's generation is going to be even worse. And so there has to be a way for us to stop this somehow, to recognize, and I don't know what that is. I don't think I have a magic way of, sharing the economy across the board, which I think is a part of it. But I have to do something.
I think that it starts with kind of having that mentality of if the answer isn't hell yes, it's a no. If the answer isn't hell yes, I want to do that. Hell yes, I want to come to your birthday and celebrate you. Then it's a no. And that has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me prioritizing my life, my wants, my desires, my own needs and time. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
I'm not sure it's that easy.
I think it's a start.
It's probably a start. So, as usual, y'all have taken my little focus here and just twisted it all around and made it something that I didn't think was going to be the topic of conversation.
Good job.
What did you think it was going to be?
Well, I thought it would kind of be tracking this article, and y'all just kind of
Shit on it.
crushed this article pretty quickly. I mean, I still think it's there that, we have some issues.
Yeah, I mean,
We need to be aware of the signs. And if that is eating alone more often than we're eating with somebody, then maybe we need to recognize that sign and do something about that. If,
But
if
again, I
that is
think-
too much time on TikTok, I'm the only one who can fix that.
I think that there's some pretty good self-reflection and introspection that needs to take place so that you can start kind of asking those questions. What actually is important to me? What actually does fill my cup up rather than drain it?
Yeah, I was thinking what makes me happy.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of go back to if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Does doom scrolling make me happy? And that makes me happier than anything else? I hate that for you, but I get it too. But
Yeah.
we're all different, and that may work for you. Maybe you're an introvert, and that joy and seeing somebody else's joy makes you happy. Cool. Lean into that. But I think that that is different for each of us and changes by person to person and by the stage of life that you're in currently. And I think that we have to have some pretty honest conversations within ourselves to say, hey, what is important to me? What do I want to be important to me? And how do I achieve and accomplish that? Am I willing to make the hard changes in order to achieve and accomplish that?
Just because I'm curious, what would that be for you?
For me, Callie, I love feeding people.
Yeah.
And so making it a point to have people in our home and to cook for them and to have that joy. It doesn't matter who it is. Somebody wants to come to the house. Yes. Come on. I have no idea what's in the fridge. We will figure something out. I'll feed you. Because I think that for me, that gives me time to spend with them, not on my phone, not scrolling. I love that camaraderie. I think that feeding people and doing that over a meal is my personal favorite way to gain that camaraderie. Can you do that in a restaurant? Sure, absolutely. But I think that there are more distractions. People think that we're nuts because we don't have a TV downstairs in our house in any of our main living areas. And so people will come in and they're like, I mean, this is cool, but what do you do? How do you spend your time? And we're like, we communicate. And so, I mean, I can't tell you how many nights we'll just have people moseying around the island in the kitchen and sitting on the couch and sitting on the back porch going, wow, this is really nice. We wouldn't have had this opportunity if there was a football game on. And
You wouldn't have taken the opportunity.
we wouldn't have taken the opportunity. And then you have those same nights where we're taking the opportunity to lay in the pool and watch a movie outside at the neighbor's house. And we love those moments. And just that is what is important to all of us. And it gives us an opportunity, a designated opportunity with fewer distractions that we can focus on each other and talking and laughing and getting to hear each other's perspectives and poke fun at each other. That's what it is for me, that camaraderie with other people. And it 99% of the time is stoked and or centered around food.
Boo, what about you?
I don't know. I think that's one of the hardest parts about it is I don't know what that is for me because it changes on the day. One day it may be just having enough time to go and hang out with my buddies and throw some frisbees. And one day it may be finishing a group of quests in a video game that I'm playing with my friends. And so in the world of gaming, a lot of people would refer to someone like me as an achievement hunter, where it is getting something difficult done, getting something that not everyone else has done. And maybe it's just that sense of accomplishment. I don't really know how to articulate this.
That's weird.
When you achieve something, when you get it done, when you accomplish something, then what? What do you do with that? Do you pat yourself on the back?
Go to the next one.
Hunt
Is
for
that
the
what you
next
said?
one.
I think you should celebrate those a little bit more. Are there places you want to go, things that you want to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting there, that it is allocating the resources to getting there. That is the hard part for me. For me, the opportunity cost of doing those things. And this is likely foolish on my part, but Alaska is one of my favorite places in the world. And I would love to make it a regular occurrence to go. But the opportunity cost of something like that is so high that it would be difficult for me to go to Alaska once a year. There's so much other stuff that I wouldn't be able to do in my everyday life to make something like that happen. And I think that that's part of the issue that I've been trying to articulate today is it's so much easier to do all of these little things because the opportunity cost for each one is so much less than to try and strive for and focus on the big things. And I think that stems from not having access to those things. And so we take on those little bitty things that give us just a little bit of that good feeling instead of allocating time and resources to those big things that maybe we could use those big things to coast for a while And I don't think
I think
everybody
if
has
you,
an opportunity to do those big things.
but I think there are more people who could do those things if they wanted to, if they thought about it or planned it out or made some sacrifices. I mean, maybe you're not doing all of the routine things that we do to entertain ourselves, and we give some of that up.
Well, and here's my privilege for just a second, which I try and keep very much in check. Just because everybody can't doesn't mean that you can't.
Sure. And I get that, and I know that I have much more access to those opportunities than the average person does, and I still struggle to reach for them.
Okay, I'm going to turn all of this kind of on its head really quick.
Oh, no.
I think that we as a society have become so accustomed to instant gratification that we kind of ignore the long game.
I don't disagree with that.
I want this and I want this now. I will sacrifice all of that other stuff so that I can have this right now. I'm going to sacrifice the trip to Alaska that I know that I want and that I know that will tide me over for a period of time so that I can have this audiobook today, that I can buy this on Amazon and it will be here in 48 hours or less. And I think that Amazon exacerbates that pressure in us, if you will. Free shipping, 2 days, free 2-day shipping. I can have it right now. If you're really lucky and you live anywhere near a major metropolitan area or an Amazon hub, you can probably have it faster than that. Why wouldn't you? Of course you can. Do it right now. And so we have become so reliant on truly needing that instant gratification that we have put off any kind of delayed satisfaction, any kind of having to work for that satisfaction. Because I can have this little crumb right now rather than the whole sandwich in a month, a year, whatever it may be. And I think that our sandwiches vary, but we are so willing to accept the crumbs because it's easier and it's faster.
Yeah, I want to look at that from a different perspective, though, because if you're
Hit me.
talking about it from the perspective of food, if you're hungry and it's Monday, and on Friday you could have a plate of nachos, or today you can have one tortilla chip, what are you gonna do?
I'm not sure I understand.
It's Monday, and you're hungry, and you know that you can either have one tortilla chip Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then you only have one tortilla chip left for Friday, or you can not eat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and have a whole big plate of nachos on Friday.
Gotcha.
Which one are you going to pick?
I hear you.
I'm going to go get me some ramen noodles for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday so that I can have the nachos on Friday with cheese and Joe Teas.
So, yeah, but
And a
that
little
kind of
lemon pepper.
exemplifies the point. You're going to
make a sacrifice.
You're going to make a sacrifice for a less good option that is going to cost you something else so that maybe you can have the plate of nachos on Friday. And then you're going to do these other little bitty bad things for you along the way, because ramen noodles are terrible for you. Not that nachos are great, but you're going to say, okay, I have, it's what, 32 cents per packet of ramen. So you're going to go and spend $1.50 so that you can have this less than optimal nourishment to tide you over until you get to, I mean, in this case, like, don't get me wrong, I love nachos, but nachos are not an extravagant meal. But do you get what I'm after here?
Sort of.
But again, I think that all comes in priorities. And I think that, like I said, those sandwich varies for everybody. So we are food people, the three of us. We love food and getting to that meal and getting to the next one and making it exciting and all of this. Maybe that isn't as important to the next person. And so what that looks like for them may be different. But I think that the point that you're trying to illustrate here is that sacrifice is a choice. You can choose to sacrifice for the sandwich, the plate of nachos down the line, but that means that you can't pay your electricity bill this month.
And that's not much of a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that, Cole, I think brings us kind of full circle to your point at the very beginning of this. The distribution of wealth in this country is sickening.
And I think that it is the root of or exacerbates a lot of the other issues that we're having.
Sure. They would agree with you on this. We are
I am
less focused on health and happiness than
And-
we are on economic growth.
and
I
greed.
and I think that calling the United States on average a wealthy nation is not really all that accurate, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, I think it's accurate. The money is here.
But the
The GDP
people don't have
is
access
here.
to it.
The majority of the people. Some of them do.
Sure, but that is not the average person. But
Yes.
because those people have it, it makes the average person look different.
Yes.
So if only 10% of the people have access to it, but it looks like 50% of the people have access to it, that is misleading and misgiving. If 80% of the population doesn't have access to that resource, but they are part of the productivity that is generating that resource, I don't think you can call us per capita. Yeah, we may be an extremely wealthy nation, but if the vast majority of our population doesn't
Citizenry.
have access to that wealth, are we really?
It's a good question. It's a valid question.
I agree.
So on that little not very happy note,
Wait, hold on. I want to go back because I think it was just here recently. So every year there's a study done about the happiest countries in the world.
Hmm.
And if I remember correctly, the United States doesn't rank well, which is the purpose of this and the point of the conversation. My question becomes, who does rank well? If I remember correctly, I think it's Finland, Denmark, something like that.
yeah,
Well, you
Finland.
nailed the first two.
Oh, really? Oh, yes.
Yep. In the right order, too.
Yes. I'm even more awesome than I thought. I would be really curious. You know, you talked about wealth per capita. I would love to know where they fall, where those top couple fall on the wealthy scale.
I would imagine relatively high. They're also typically, this is a relative term, they are relatively socialist countries that have extremely high tax rates, but also report an exceptionally high level of life satisfaction. So just per Google AI, taking a look here, Finland is sitting at number 1 as of 2025. Finnish citizens consistently report high levels of life satisfaction, partly attributed to factors like access to nature, valuing social connections, and a strong sense of community.
All things that we are statistically lacking.
Yep. Denmark, number 2. Denmark's high ranking is likely due to its strong social safety nets, focus on work-life balance, and a culture that values equality and social well-being. Iceland, its happiness is attributed to low crime rates, a high level of trust, and a unique blend of nature and modernity. Number 4, Sweden. Sweden's strong social welfare system, emphasis on equality, and commitment to sustainability likely contribute to its high happiness ranking. Number 5, the Netherlands' strong economy, focus on individual freedoms, and emphasis on social cohesion are factors in its high happiness score.
So while you pulled that up, I pulled up the world's richest countries per capita based on GDP. Number 1, this is as of 2024. Number 1 is Luxembourg, which on the list that I'm looking at for the world's 20th happy countries in 2025, Luxembourg is number 9. So in the top 10 still, but number 9. Y'all, I'm going to totally butcher this. Macau, SAR, it's in all caps, I don't know, which is in China, a region in China, the south coast of China, across the Pearl River Delta from Hong Kong, is number 2, which I don't see on the top 20 list anywhere. Number 3 is Ireland, which is number 15 of the happiest countries in the world. Singapore is number 4 on richest, which is not in the top 20 of happiest. Qatar is the next richest at number 5, not in the happiest. The United Arab Emirates, UAE, is number 6 in the richest, not on the happiest. Number 7 is Switzerland, which is number 13 on the happiest. San Marino is number 8 in world's richest, and I do not see anywhere on the happiest. And then number 9 is the United States on the world's richest countries, which is definitely not in the top 20. And then the top 10 is rounded out with Norway at number 10, which is number 7 in world's happiest countries. So, in
So
a
the
lot
song
of
is
Again-
right. Money doesn't buy you happiness.
yeah,
Yeah, Mexico sits at number 10 for the world's happiest.
Mexico.
these are the happiest. Finland is number 1, Denmark is number 2, Iceland is number 3, Sweden is number 4, the Netherlands is number 5, Costa Rica is number 6, 7 is Norway, 8 is Israel, 9 is Luxembourg, and 10 is Mexico.
Yeah, and Luxembourg being at number 9 on the happiest list, but also number 1 at GDP per capita. Well, if they're number 1 at GDP per capita, you would expect that they're either in a similar situation to us where there's these vast differences in socioeconomic status, or they're not. And because everyone has this high standard of living, everyone has access to this wealth, there's not this great disparity in those experiences, which just in general leads to a happier people.
Very curious.
But I also think that it goes to show that wealthy and happiness don't necessarily go hand in hand.
Yeah, with Mexico being right behind Luxembourg in happiness, and they're citing that it's linked to its strong family ties and cultural values. I mean, they're just happy to be with each other, happy to be with their families. And that's great, but they're also not so focused on productivity that it consumes all of their time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're number 75. Mexico is number 75 on the world's richest countries per capita by GDP.
So maybe it really doesn't have anything to do with money.
Yeah. No matter what Elon Musk on a crosswalk says.
Okay. Weird thought. I read this story and I was just so disheartened. This guy, whose name I don't remember right now,
Leo Schofield.
was convicted of killing his wife of 6 months when she was 18 years old, convicted with very little evidence, no hard evidence, and spent 37 years in prison. 7 or 9 years ago, another person confessed to killing her.
He maintained his innocence the entire time.
Yes. But he's been in jail and a model inmate the whole time. But 7, 8 years ago, someone else confessed to killing her and had the evidence. I think DNA evidence proved it. But here's the weird part to me. Nothing happened to him. He stayed in prison. The only reason that he is out today is that he made parole. No one went back and said, we screwed up.
We're really bad at that.
So I did some looking, and it's not an automatic thing if somebody else comes up and confesses to the crime.
Which is
doesn't
insane.
get you off. What?
Which is insane.
It is insane.
You'd think it would trigger something to say, oh, okay, in that case.
I mean, and you just have to wonder, is that just
You would think that
arrogance?
would get back to the prosecutor.
Well, after 40 years, the prosecutor could be dead.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't look up
the-
those details,
the
but
entity of the prosecution team, if Denton County is who is prosecuting me for a crime, and I say I did not commit this crime, and they say, well, we think you did, and we're going to put you away for it, and then someone else comes in and basically tells them, I committed this crime, it doesn't matter who the prosecutor is as an individual person, that prosecutorial team should say, oh, well, we've already charged
we screwed up.
so-and-so with this. Maybe we should say, okay, we now have evidence that you're not the one who did this. Our bad.
And you have to wonder why, because if they did that, then he is eligible for compensation. So if
Which
they
is probably
don't,
why they didn't.
if they don't go back and do that, then he has nothing. And he remains a convicted felon for murder.
And just lost 37 years of his life.
37 years. Now, Cal, you have what is almost a weirder part to the story.
Oh, yeah. So, well, before we get into that part of it, I just want to say, if I understood correctly, the man who confessed to actually killing the wife was never charged with killing the wife. He was charged with a bunch of other things and was imprisoned for a bunch of other things and convicted of all of these other things. But even once he confessed, he was never charged with actually killing this specific woman.
Which is weird.
Which is weird. But I think that, again, you would have to take some responsibility and say, hey, we need to take that charge from the husband that we gave it to and put it over here on this dude, which would accountability scary. So the weirder part of all of this is the murderer has gotten in touch by happenstance with the husband. They have now begun talking, and the husband has very freely and openly forgiven the murderer, better understands why he did it, and thinks that forgiveness is more important.
And has befriended him.
Yes, to encourage him.
To encourage him in what he is going through in prison.
Yes.
I think this may be our weirdest story ever.
It is really weird. I'm not really, like, I love a good podcast. This is all kind of chronicled in the Bone Valley podcast that I feel like I need to go back and listen to. True crime is not normally my thing, but I feel like I need to go back and listen to, because that's kind of how these two accidentally got hooked up with each other, was because the guy who's putting together and producing the podcast, who knows both of them, happened to be with the husband out in the real world when the inmate called, and it was like, hey, do you guys want to talk? Do you guys want to chat real quick? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't think I would be prepared for that one.
No.
37 years. I mean, he must have been 18 or 19 years old when he went to prison. So all of his adult life has been spent behind bars for something that he did not do.
And he comes out of it with this sentiment. This is a direct quote. Forgiveness is not about the person who hurt us. It is about us who are hurt and being freed from the effect of that. Y'all, I don't know that I am that big of a person.
I don't think I am.
And if somebody murdered one of you, even if I could find it in the depths of my heart and soul to forgive them, we ain't friends. I'm not going to call them up and be like, so what was on
How can I help?
prison menu this week? How's your week been? No, we're not friends. That one was creepy.
So, good news story, Callie.
He's here. He's there. He's every
fucking where, Roy Kent.
So, Apple TV has officially confirmed. It's been speculation, lots of other sources all across the internet. Ted Lasso is coming back for season 4.
And have they said what it's going to be? Because he's in the U.S. He's back in the U.S. He came home.
I don't think that they have said. There's lots of speculation. It's going to be about the women's team. It's going to be him from here, and it's going to be different. I don't think that any specific details, actual details, have been shared.
So I just have to say, you were so hesitant to watch Ted Lasso. You had said you'd tried a couple of times. You were not into it. And now you are one of the biggest fans.
I am.
It does start slow, and it is kind of odd for the first episode or two.
Oh, there's a couple of weird ones in the other episodes, later on.
Sure. But by that time, you're already buckled up and in for the ride at that point.
Yeah, I couldn't get through the first episode. Maybe I'm impatient, but I want to.
That instant gratification.
Yeah, it is. I want to kind of have a general idea and a foundation of what's going on before you start telling me all of these things. We watched something the other day. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, we watched that TV show with Robert De Niro, 0 Day on Netflix.
Yeah, that one was strange.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and you get into it eventually. But I told Ryan, we're sitting there watching it, and we're like 4 episodes in, and I'm like,
what is going on?
I don't get it. I don't understand. And I felt like I had dropped in, started watching season 7 of a show halfway through it, and nobody told me any of the backstory. And I feel like Ted Lasso was like that for the very beginning. Hey, it's just going on. It's happening. You're here. And I'm like, I don't know these people. I don't know what's going on. I don't care. I'm not rooting for them yet. I don't have enough information to begin rooting for them yet. And I love to root for people. I love to get invested in their stories and who they are and how they got here. And so I like that character buildup. And Ted Lasso kind of jumps in first. And it's a little bit depressing with the divorce and his wife and all of these things. And you're just like, why do I care? Why do I want to watch this? I don't want to root for you. I don't know what's going on. And so it definitely, 2 of my favorite people came in and said, no, Callie, you need to watch this. And I trusted that from you guys. And after I got through the first, like probably 2 episodes, I was hooked. I knew enough. I was patient enough to get enough of their backstory to start rooting for them and cheering for them. And then I just really liked them.
I think that's kind of the point, because everybody else in the show kind of felt the same way. Who is this weird American guy who's a football coach, an American football coach who's now coaching a Premier League team?
Yeah.
Like, who is this wanker?
Yeah.
Who is this guy? And I think the show is about, and Ted Lasso does a great job of give people a chance.
Yeah.
Give
Not
them
judging the
every
book by the
opportunity to do it right, and give them the tools they need to do it right, and eventually they'll get it.
Which is so very much in line with who I am as a person. It feels so weird even talking about this, me being impatient. I'm a very patient person.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I just couldn't give in to this show. Everybody talked about how great it was. And I'm like, I don't get it. I can't wait for this to be done. I literally couldn't make it through the first 15 minutes of the first episode. I was so impatient with it. And then once I got invested in it, I wanted to watch the entire thing, the entirety of the entire series right now, and be so excited for them and see what was going on with all of their lives, because I'm nosy. If nothing else, I'm definitely nosy. And I think that it was so not Callie. That stance on watching it was so not Callie that it took me 43 minutes to get out of my own way and into the show to really dig in and be super excited.
And now there's 4th season.
And I'm so excited. But it'll be awesome. I think that they were speculating still that it would hit late 2025, early 2026. So we're not there yet. We've got some time. I can be patient. I'll show you.
It's going to be awful if it comes out 1 episode and you can only watch 1 episode. I don't think you can wait.
You just have to wait until it's over. You'll have to wait until the season is finished.
I don't
and
think
then
she
watch
can.
it all in one go.
I don't know. If you're going to give me a dose of a little bit of Ted Lasso, I think that I'll take the crumbs.
I'm really curious to see where it's going to go and what the storyline's going to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be fun.
It will be fun. And I'm really excited. And I'm ready for it to be here right very now because I want that instant gratification.
Well, I want you guys to think about the things that you want and to be intentional about them. And we have to hold each other accountable to that, to the things that we want. Because I don't want to be just that regular American who's unhappy eating alone in the corner.
Yeah. And I think, like I said earlier, I think that requires some pretty serious introspection among each of us individually to answer those hard questions. We have this podcast to have hard conversations and to kind of work through difficult questions and not just sit idly by, to have the talk, even when we disagree. And so I think that we need to take that to heart in this kind of avenue and say, okay, happiness is important. What does that really look like for me?
Put the happiness in front of the wealth.
Yep.
Love you guys.
Love y'all.